have you with us on this edition of the Urban Debate at 9 p.m. The focus tonight, of course, is the new set of guidelines put out by the central government for lockdown 3.0. 2 more weeks, at least. We now know at least what's going to happen starting May 4th for the next 2 weeks. Depending on which part of the country you live, depending in which zone you are, life will change for you. The way it is right now, it won't be the same. This is how I will explain to you the difference between lockdown currently 2.0 and what may happen post May 4th. Because lockdown 3.0, viewers, has a significant amount of relaxation in place even for the red zones. Now, the biggest of the cities, and that's going to be our focus for the next 1 hour. The biggest of India's cities, our metros, most of our state capitals are all red zones. From Srinagar to Delhi to Chandigarh, Lucknow, Bhopal, Raipur, Patna, Kolkata, Ahmedabad, Jaipur, Mumbai, Chennai, Hyderabad. These are all red zones, and many other cities. The second and the third number city in various states like Surat or Vadodara or Pune, they're all red zones. But even for these zones, the central government has now announced a set of relief. And I actually want to take you through those first. What's now allowed in red zones? Construction activities with resident workers. Industrial establishments in urban areas can function in your special economic zones, export-oriented units, manufacturing facilities for essential goods. In urban areas, these can function. Industrial estates and townships, manufacturing of IT hardware, all standalone shops. If you are not in a mall, if you are not in a marketplace, but you are a standalone store, even if you are in a residential complex, you can open. But e-commerce will still only be for essential items. Private offices and government offices can allow at least 33% of their work strength to now come to office. While this has been said, keep in mind that a lot depends on the state governments. A lot depends also on your own district administration, on your DM or your district collector. Whoever is taking decision in conversation with the state government may decide that no, we want to be a little bit more cautious. So we are not going to allow these many shops to open. We are not going to allow these many offices to run. How are these offices going to run if public transport is not allowed? Hence, we decided we will have more representatives tonight to tell us how this may impact your life and my life depending on which kind of a zone we are in. So let's say good evening to the panelists who are joining us right now. I believe Dr. Syed Nasir Hussain, Rajya Sabha MP and a member of the Congress Party, a national spokesperson for the party, joins us this evening. Before we bring in more guests, let me just ask Dr. Hussain how he sees the set of announcements that have been made by the central government this evening. Dr. Hussain?
I think this was expected from the government for a long time because the number of cases has spiked. And some states like Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan have picked up like anything. Obviously, Maharashtra has always been there because of the kind of presence of people in, especially in Mumbai city, that has been there for day one. Because of these 3-4 states which have picked up, and especially Andhra Pradesh and Telangana has picked up, West Bengal has picked up, because of these states, it was expected that the lockdown will continue for some more time. One welcome step is, as we discussed last time when I was there on a debate, was about migrant workers and the people those were stranded in the different parts of the country. Because the lockdown was announced without any planning, the lockdown was announced without any warning. We also believe that the lockdown could have come a bit earlier. And at that time, the government of India was waiting for their government to be formed in Madhya Pradesh, for Mr. Trump and for Mr. Trump to come and go. That these are certain things which we already said in earlier debates. But the point now is, now that the lockdown 3.0 has been announced, now that the government of India has taken a decision to ferry to see that the migrant workers go back to their native places, Now, I think even more important is how does the government plan to ferry these migrated workers and the other laborers who have been stranded in different parts of the country. One section is the migrant laborer, the other is the people who have gone to different parts of the country. Students have gone, people have gone for tourism, people have gone for religious pilgrimages, people have gone for conferences, business trips, and other meetings, weddings, and so on. So all these categories will have to be shifted back to their native places. This is a big challenge. I think the government of the state should also help the union government in seeing that these workers and people, those who are stranded, are shifted back to their own places. This is a big challenge. Now, the bigger challenge which we have been continuously telling is the government of the day should understand the gravity of the problem, that the daily wages, in Hindi we always say कि दिन भर की दिहाड़ी जब तक लेके घर नहीं पहुंचता उसके घर का चूल्हा नहीं जलता. So these are the kind of migrant workers we have in our country today. The government should should come to their rescue.
Right.
Just giving them dal and rice will not help. Just giving them some rice and some facility here and there will not help. There should be a complete package to see that the poor people, especially the laborers and then the MSME sector, are taken care. The government should forego this Vista project. We have been telling 20,000 crores. Bullet train project.
Okay, let's take it point by point,
crores.
Dr. Hussain.
Yeah.
Yes,
So,
well, the poor have
is-
to be taken
the
care of, the industries have to be taken care of. So let's take them step by step. Some of the announcements have already been made by the central government in terms of the welfare schemes. The states have also initiated it. Of course, we need to do it at a larger level, and it's a mammoth task considering the size of the population in our country. I want to also say good evening to Kovai Sathyan of the AIADMK, Clyde Crasto of the NCP, and Dr. Preeti Kumar, Vice President for Public Health System Support, joins us this evening from PHFI. But quick question with Kovai first. Kovai, a lot of relaxations have also been announced for red zones. Now, what is your own sense? Are city-wise and at the state level, is your party ready to bring in these kind of relaxations to allow economic activity even in the red zones?
No, it's very simple. A red zone will still remain an isolation area where no activities are being permitted. An orange zone is one where you have and you can experiment with some limited activities. A green zone is something like free to go. That's how the nutshell it is. But putting this across, and I believe that, or we believe that, the guidelines given by the center has put the maximum onus and responsibility on the states to take a call, and wherein each and every state, depending upon their districts and the status quo, has to take a call, which essentially means that the A intersection B will definitely lead to A union B in mathematics. I'm putting it this way: if you are allowing activity in the green zone, wherein the parameter is only based on the doubling rate and the number of tests, wherein there is no benchmark like what is the number of tests you should do or what is the percentage of population that you should take into account. That is more important based on your containment zones. And what will happen if tomorrow a green zone gets converted into a red zone? What will happen to it? And what will happen to the exploration of cases that happens in a green zone? And if at all, if there is a green zone which strives hard to remain as green zone, wherein a red zone migrates to an orange zone, and what will happen to those if there is an explosion in the orange zone? So I would say that the responsibilities are being larger to the state and as well as to the district. And this, in the longer run, has to be meticulously planned out. But in the end, definitely we might expect that after 2 weeks of lockdown, you might still see a lot of more notifications and statements coming up from the center.
Yes, no, so let me say this, and I will rephrase this, Kovai. For example, the center did issue a set of guidelines a couple of weeks ago about allowing shops to open up which are not in malls and which are not in marketplaces. But we've not seen that happen in most part of the country because the state governments and the local administration have been largely apprehensive to allow that. In fact, if anything, in more parts now we are seeing shops opening only for a limited amount of time, for 2 to 3 hours. So what I am trying to understand from you right now is, irrespective of what the center has announced, should we be prepared for the similar situation to continue even for a large part of Tamil Nadu as we are seeing right now?
See, Tamil Nadu had majority into red zones, barring one district out of 37. So today we have 24 districts which have turned orange, and 12 districts are in red and one into green zone. My point is pretty much simple. Chennai is being declared as a red zone long back, but with the number of tests being increased, you can see the number of cases increasing as well. So my point is, tomorrow, if there are test measures which is being done in the green zone, and where you see positive cases coming in greater than 15 and less than 25, suddenly then you have to take that green zone into a red zone. The question here is how people will cope up with sudden change of announcements and how their livelihood will change. You slowly start economic activity and you start giving jobs to the people, particularly to the unskilled people in the green zone. By any chance that green zone turns out into a red zone, it's a hypothetical scenario. It may happen. You cannot say that it might not happen. Despite your containment measures, that despite with people adhering to the norms of social distancing, let's assume that they adhere to norms of social distancing. But if there are tests being conducted inside a green zone to keep it green zone, if it turns to a red zone, then you have to change the entire scenario of that particular district, which is very hard to implement. Given a green signal to go ahead of some activities and then calling them back to say that no, you cannot do this, then again wait for an X amount of period to again make it into a green zone. These type of exercises are very, very difficult to implement. Practically, I am saying. So that's the reason I'm saying the announcements or the guidelines given by MHA, I think it still needs larger, more picture taking into consideration of the stakeholders. And there is one important thing which everybody is missing. It's almost 2
Yes.
months. Every state is running high and dry on finance. Every state has put up their best possible estimates to the center and awaiting for the center's clarity. So until and unless there is a financial package which has been released to the respective states, they can't keep the numbers floating. They won't be able to implement the welfare schemes that the state envisaged to do for their citizens, to keep the economic activity buzzing, to keep the welfare of the people buzzing. At the other side, fighting the COVID in a large scale. So this has to happen parallelly. So I would say that the earlier the center releases the economic package and give a clarity on the economic package, the states will be in a better position to take a call considering their red zones or orange zones or green zones or whatsoever it is.
Okay, Kovai Sathyan, thank you so much for joining us with your reaction as we go and get more and more reactions on this big story. And largely, here are the themes that are emerging, viewers. The fact that the states are still saying that we need to analyze the situation on our own as well before we decide whether or not these relaxations can be put in place. And the government center now needs to focus on giving us financial aid and support on helping us restarting the the economic activity financially speaking, and helping us ensuring that people on street have food and shelter. Let me see if Clyde wants to add to that. Clyde, Maharashtra is on top of the list in terms of cases, and so are cities like Mumbai and Pune. Are we ready to bring in relaxation into our red zones?
We will have to give this a very, very deep thought. We will obviously go by what the central government, the rules and guidelines that they've given us. You have to adhere to that. But I'll tell you something, that we need to go into the micro level. Now, this is the macro level of guidelines that they've given us. But like you said, Mumbai, Pune, Pimpri Chinchwad, these are the places that the cases are very high. And we need to now get there into micro level. For example, I'll give a very simple example. Two things that have been given in the guidelines. That is, 33% of private offices, staff can function. The government offices, 33% can function. Now, my point that would be here is that we do not have public transport. Not all of them would have, their private vehicles. Now, also what comes into play here is that if any of those offices are in a containment zone or they are in a quarantine zone, now what happens to that? Now, all those things have to be looked into at a micro level, understand the situation of a particular district, and then we need to go and see what kind of relaxations further, or if those relaxation cannot be given. So I think micro level understanding of the situation is very important. Yes, the central government has given us the guidelines. We will definitely follow it. But the micro level thing has to be understood. Also, now when it comes to it, obviously the government will sit together tomorrow and come up with a fresh set of guidelines in extension of what the guidelines are given to us. But we have to understand this. Like, for example, the migrant. Now, the migrants are allowed to go from one place to the other. They've been given the leeway now. The Shramik trains have started, the buses are going to start. So what happens if some people who are already, obviously will do a testing and, quarantine and everything. But these things have to be understood very clearly. Take a look at what is happening. Economy is in a doldrum, no doubt about it. Center has to assist every state. There's no doubt about that. But right now, we need to go into all these issues of how we are going to take things as it is in a particular district, in a particular city, or in even that matter in a particular ward or
I'm not able to hear Clyde right now. I'm not too sure if there's a problem with his feed. But essentially, Clyde Castro also saying the same thing, that we need to look at what's really happening within our individual areas before taking a call. Syed Zafar Islam, national spokesperson for the BJP, good evening to you. Mr. Islam, it seems as if even though the central government has announced these relaxations for green zone, orange zone and red zone, right now everybody is a little apprehensive about implementing them. Now, how do you see these getting rolled out across the country?
Well, you have to understand that the government of India, the central government has given a broad guidelines based on the demand of each state government, and the implementation, of course, lies with the state administration. So they will have to strictly go by the guidelines of the central government. How it needs to be implemented is something which is their responsibility. However, we must tell you that it has to be done in a regulated manner, because the guidelines does give a lot of flexibility, which was earlier restricted, and now given the economic activities and the concept of Jan and Jahan, both which the Honorable Prime Minister has spoken earlier. So keeping that in mind, the Government of India has given a lot more flexibility than what people were expecting earlier. So it is up to now, the state administration has the earlier the spokesperson of NCP and somebody from the Tamil Nadu was speaking earlier, that they were also saying that they will examine it, and how it needs to be implemented is the responsibility of the state administration, something they will be able to navigate in a manner that needs to be navigated. But all I can say that the flexibility, which despite the fact that the number of victims or the infected person of the coronavirus has gone up, despite that fact, but keeping that in mind, that economic activity has to start, because before the lockdown, if it was 100%, immediately after the lockdown, it was the economic activities had come off to 25% of the original 100%, and then after 20th April, when some relaxation was given, then it had gone up to 35 to 40%. With this relaxation, of course, the economic activity will go up to 65%. Of course, it will not go to 100%, because there are places in red zone where a lot of restriction is still to be followed. But having said that, some of the activities, this relaxation will definitely push the economic activities. A lot more engagement is permitted even in red zone. Like for instance, even private offices can open, and then 30% with 33% attendance. So that, I think, that's something which the industry, the businesses.
So, for example, Mr. Zafar Islam, one valid point that's been raised, Mr. Islam. One point that has been raised by many of the panelists in the last 1.5 hours is, okay, you've allowed 33% of the workforce in private sector to go back to work. You've allowed the similar amount of people to go back to government offices. You've said industrial activity in special economic zones, manufacturing activity, all of this can start in red zones. But how will these people get to work? Because public transport is still not allowed. Even in private transport, in one vehicle, in one car, there can only be one driver and one other passenger. So how are people going to go to work? What's the point of announcing these relaxations if they're not going to be practical on ground?
Well, I think it can work in two ways. First, that individual arrangement, what the employees can make the arrangement on their own, will have to be done by them. And of course, the organization, as indicated earlier, for the daily wages, the companies were asked to make arrangement for the daily wages. Likewise, the companies will have to make arrangement for people to commute from office to home, and because in any case they are not allowed to travel to any other place in red zone. So all these arrangements will have to be done by the individual himself or collectively with the company as well as the individual, and the group of people will have to work together to find a way to commute from home to offices. Because if the public transport in red zone,
Okay,
public
let me also get in. Yes, well, you've put up across, Mr. Zafar Islam, the central government has put across quite a bit of a challenge, for the state administration and even the private sector to figure this out, while, giving a feeling that, well, this could bring in a lot of relaxation in your big cities and towns. Let me get in Dr. Ajoy Kumar, patiently waiting by your reaction to what has been announced today and how life may change for people in Delhi after this.
Look, like you said correctly, that we need to, get into the nitty-gritty of implementing the various guidelines of the Ministry of Home Affairs. But it's also a very peculiar situation. One is that one end, you have seen that the revenues of the state government also has come down, and the national government has come down. I believe the tax collection from 1 lakh crore has come down to 35,000 crores. So how do we implement it with educating people? And finally, the responsibility of the physical distancing has to be also to a largely driven by the people. Like mask, how do you use the washrooms? Because, it's not always a policing situation. We need to treat all citizens, we need to educate citizens. We need to make sure it is possible to implement all the physical distancing norms. And correctly said, continuously test and see those hotspots. But one of the suggestions which keeps coming up is that even if you have a district which is a hotspot, the whole of the district may not be, there may be one locality or a colony or a building which has got a huge amount of patients. So we need to find solutions on all that. How do we quarantine that facility? How do we ensure that we check the rest of the area? And we are moving along as we learn. But definitely what is troubling, I guess, is finally the government of India, the elephant in the room is, how do you fund the state governments in implementation? There is no money with the state government. The resources are running out. What is your plan on giving the various state governments the money? What is the plan on ensuring the support to the various industries? How are you going to bring back the small and the medium scale industries? Because they are the maximum employers. 90% of the Indian, at least all the unorganized sector definitely has a large percentage of people in the small and medium and micro level industries. How are you going to come with that? Because that is something which nobody seems to realize. Everybody says, okay, lockdown, close this, close that. It needs to be done, and we recognize that. But in the meantime, what is the financial support to this organization so that they can at least pay their employees without even work happening? And what will be the takeoff? We are all believing that the economic activity will take off once the lockdown is over. But all the people who have moved back to their rural areas, a lot of them are not going to come back because they are not going to their unpleasant experience.
Yes.
They're not. So how do you go? We will be suffering with people not wanting to come back to the cities, and they are the majority people who keep our industries on the running. And if they are not there, how do you manage? And the biggest challenge, I guess, is we all believe that economy is going to start. It's like an engine which is being stuck. To crank up the engine, to start the engine, you need to take steps now. You need money to the state governments. The state governments are going to run away. The other important thing which we are not addressing is children in schools and colleges. We are believing online.
Yeah.
A majority of us only those middle class and above middle class have 4G networks. What about a child? How is he going to manage without, you're saying Doordarshan or the TV channels will show programs? So the whole question is the children of the lower income and the lower middle class and the marginalized people who are the majority of these people.
Yes.
They are going to suffer tremendous amount of opportunity loss. They will not be able to fight children who have good access. So what is the solution on that? What is the solution on setting the economy running? What is the solution on supporting state governments? So we are totally running in the black, on the blind on that. We have a hammer and we say lockdown, and I agree that it is. But we also need to know that what else. Now there is a great deal of uncertainty across for people in jobs. You say that private sector should not reduce salaries. How do you tell a restaurant owner who's got 50 people or 30 people who's not earned for 2 months? What is he going to pay when the banks are not going to extend him loan? So these are reality. We are all believing that things are going to happen. The instructions come. And I'll give you a very interesting data. The government of India said 170,000 metric tons of dal will be distributed. And this was supposed to be distributed in the month of April. Till now, only 17,000 tons, 10% has reached the people. The food granary and the ration which is promised is still not being reached. It is a great deal. We are going to suffer hunger. We are going to suffer medical emergencies. I'll just focus it on anything on medicine. Hospitals occupancy of 30%, right? It means that people who have heart attacks are not coming in. People who have cancer they are not coming in. People who are sick are not coming in. So there are people who are suffering or dying. So there is no clarity on that. How can a hospital in a normal time have overflow and then have only 30%? So these questions have to be answered, that India is going to go through these questions. And we need to answer this in a more public form and a more discussion. And, somebody like you who always...
No, but I'm assuming that even the Delhi government... But even the Delhi government and all the other state governments have used this time or should have used this time to build up on their healthcare infrastructure. So that part, Dr. Ajay Kumar, one would hope has been improved significantly. But to the other points you've raised, Mr. Zafar Islam, do you want to respond to that? Almost everyone else who's been on the panel has also highlighted that yes, good if you've come up with sort of relaxation. Yes, fine if you think the lockdown needs to be extended. But where is the help on the economic front?
See, you have to understand three things. One, that the economic package for MSME, what Mr. Ajay Kumar was talking about, or the industry, is something which has already been indicated that is in work in progress. And it's a dynamic situation. Government situation is evolving every day. New dynamics is coming up. So government is acknowledging that and working towards that. So whatever announcement would be made, it meets the people's expectation. Secondly, that the three section, it has to be divided in three sections. First, that the bottom 20% who needs support from the government. The government has already immediately after the lockdown, they made the announcement of 1.7 lakh crore package for the marginalized section of the society. And second is, as I said, MSME industry and all this work in progress. The third is financial sector. The RBI has come up with several measures to address the concern of the financial sector as well. So I think the government of India, the regulators have done a fantastic job, and whatever needs to be done in terms of the economic package to be announced is something which already in the Honorable Finance Minister has indicated that it is work in progress and they will make the announcement soon. Because if you see that in case of RBI also, they made series of announcements, not once but twice and thrice. They have come up because a lot of expectation the market and the financial sectors had expectation, which eventually had been addressed by the RBI governor and the team, but they had to do it in phases. Likewise, in terms of economic package, the government of India is evaluating the situation and ascertaining that what is the best way to address the concern of the people, both in terms of the MSME and small businesses, and also the large industrial houses. everyone has expectation and economic activity needs to start.
Correct, but Mrs. Islam,
just a second.
yes,
For
but Zafar Islam, we've been waiting for several weeks now, and we.
No, but you have to understand. See, in terms of what is required. Basically, the moratorium, what was needed, what has been provided by the RBI. In terms of liquidity for some businesses, yes, up to investment grade, the TLTRO facility was available for the corporate to avail this liquidity under TLTRO, which has been TLTRO2, which has been announced by RBI. So additional liquidity, what is required for MSME, SME sector and the industrial other businesses, that is something which people are expecting that the government of India in its economic package will come up with some scheme which addresses this concern as well. Because the concern is what the MSME sector is the liquidity for kick-starting their activities, and something which everyone has represented and made representation to the government, both in the finance ministry and the other ministries. And we are expecting that soon some announcement will be made which meets the expectation of the businesses. And of course, you have to understand that India is a developing economy, unlike the developed economy. We have limited resources and our set of problem as well. So keeping that in mind, whatever government of India can do best, keeping its resources in mind, it is something which government of India will definitely do to meet people's expectation.
Yes, okay, but I mean, you know it and I know it, Mr. Zafar Islam, because I know you understand economics really well as too, that despite the RBI announcements, nothing is translating on ground. Banks and NBFCs are still very hesitant to lend money, and so the problem still exists even for the small businesses and MSMEs. But let me also say good evening to Mr. Binoy Viswam, joining us right now on this conversation. Always good to have you, Mr. Binoy Viswam. Your response to what the centre has announced today. The Kerala government wanted to open up restaurants and barber shops a couple of weeks ago. It seems that won't be allowed even now, for at least the next 2 weeks. Okay, we seem to have lost that line with Mr. Binoy Viswam. We're going to patch that line again with him and get a reaction. Yes, but let me also go across. Yes.
Tanvi, I just since
yes, go ahead, please.
Since Zafar ji is on the show, the question which I think every working class person or even the factory owners are asking is that it is very, very critical to get the financial package announcement fast, both for the rural areas and the urban areas one. And if I can give him a suggestion, one of the challenges also is like the Manrega in the rural area. We would need to do something of a similar lines in the urban areas, because a lot of factories will not be in a good position, a lot of business will not be in a good position. So we need something for the urban labor in terms of a Manrega, in terms of creating city infrastructure, building projects, roads, those kind of things are also critically needed, because those people the poor were stuck in the cities and who are working, like if it's a rickshaw puller, if he's a taxi or an auto rickshaw or running a small and he's in the red zone or even in the orange zone, and a lot of activities can't happen. We need something like a Roosevelt plan, like what President Roosevelt did in the United States in terms of, and I'm sure the government hopefully is thinking. We are also in Delhi also thinking about it very seriously. How do we? But that's something which we need to seriously consider.
Okay. Okay, I believe Mr. Binoy Viswam is back with me. Let me quickly get in a reaction from his as well. Mr. Binoy Viswam, the question I was asking was, the Kerala government actually wanted to open restaurants and shops and barber shops over a week ago. It seems like the centre is not going to allow that for another couple of weeks.
No, last time also, I told you categorically, we are not here to have a struggle with the government of India on this matter. We never insisted that we should open the restaurants and hotels tomorrow. It was never our intention. We are ready to wait till the government of India gave us the necessary sanctions to become normal. And we will be cooperating with the government of India with full capacity and with full understanding. We believe that no states alone can fight out, or no state governments alone can come back to normalcy. We need the support of India, government of India. We are Indians. We feel as part of India. And that's why the government of India should understand that we, the states in other parts of the country, big or small they may be, we are also part of India. So we need the support from the government of India. We need the necessary policy guidance from the government of India. And we wait for that. I can tell you only one example. Two very prestigious institutions in state of Kerala, the Sri Chitra Tirunal Institute of Medical Sciences and the Rajiv Gandhi Center for Biotechnology, both are based in Trivandrum. They, through their consistent efforts and research, they have evolved a rapid test kit which can be produced very easily. We have the know-how and it can be produced very lesser cost. And what they did with China, buying the unqualified equipments with a higher price, and somebody in the middle got a lot of huge profit out of that, which was proven useless. Instead of that, everybody in the area of research and science, they certified that what the Kerala institutions developed are pakka and perfect. We are waiting for the ICMR for their sanctions, for the certifications. We are waiting and waiting. Nothing has happened till now. So we insist now. The government of India should see that the ICMR, the Indian Council of Medical Research, should give us the necessary permission to make it and to commission it and to see that it will come to the field for activities and help the people, so that rapid tests can be made in the state of Kerala and wherever possible, everywhere in India, it is possible. More than several months, we are waiting for that.
Okay.
This is the approach of the government of India. That should be changed. Then comes the question. We are waiting a big inflow of the NRIs from various parts of the world, mainly from the Gulf. In lakhs, they are going to come back to Kerala, in lakhs. Our government has done whatever is possible by our side. We are doing it. We have already prepared for 2 lakhs people to be quarantined. 2 lakhs people. We have prepared necessary beds in government hospitals and private hospitals equally, and we are prepared in that way also. Even around 3,400 ventilators are ready with us. We are ready. And we are proud to say that we have a very, very, very widespread government health system, which is the best in the country. The best in the country.
Correct.
We are proud of that. And we are with that, ready for that. But we feel at such occasions, government of India should come to our help, because we are a poor state. And the government of India should feel that we should be supported financially also. On that side, the government is absolutely a failure, I should say. They are giving concessions to corporates.
No, I will come back to you on the financial help point, Mr. Biswam, because that's something that we have been discussing here as well. I request you to hold on. I also want to go across to Dr. Preeti Kumar, who's been patiently waiting by, and I've not got time to get a reaction from her. Dr. Kumar, do you believe that the relaxations that have been announced are in line with the kind of results we've seen with 5 weeks of lockdown in terms of rise of cases and the improvement in recovery rate?
There is no doubt that when the lockdown was announced, and I've been listening to all my predecessor speakers, the apprehension, I can say that the same sort of apprehensions were there even when the lockdown was announced as to how would the country adapt and adopt the lockdown measures. I feel that the approach is scientific in the sense that this was inevitable. We would, keeping in mind the way the trajectory of the cases has been going on in the country, this would need to be relaxed sooner than later. So this is the time when again we have to again take stock of the situation, where scientifically it has been determined that yes, probably we have to ease the restrictions. And if you will notice, it is a district that is really, the states have the ownership beyond the broad guidelines that have been provided by the center. It is really for the states to now to take it forward and to run with it. Keeping in mind that the district has been taken as the area of intervention. This is going to be a challenge. It is a tightrope because everywhere there is an issue about life as well as livelihood. However, let us look at it in a larger context. Out of 740 plus districts, our red zones are 130, which still leaves us a lot of opportunity for economic activities to begin in the green district, which is about 300 plus, as well as a lot of activities to begin in the orange district. So rather than focusing on what cannot be done, I think it will also be important for us to also concentrate on those areas where actually economic activities can be done. And after 14 days, an assessment can be taken. The point is that even as when the lockdown is lifted, our vigilance has to go up. And second, the lockdown has been more of an action by the public system. Here is the time now where both the public and the private sectors will have to work far more in tandem as the ease down of the lockdown precautionary measures happen. We must realize we only have a clutch of interventions. They are even and across the country. Only the intensity of these interventions varies. Social distancing, wearing a mask, personal hygiene, respiratory etiquette. That forms literally the crux of the interventions which we have to do. How these are implemented will really depend upon individual enterprises, district and block administration governments, municipal corporations, hospital by hospital, how they implement it. So I do think this is going to be a challenge for us. The results might be very different because it is an unknown road that we will now be entering an unknown phase. But we know the interventions. A lot of lessons have been learned in the lockdown period. Our surveillance systems have been strengthened. We have a large capacity now to actually do proper tracking, tracing, contact tracing, quarantine. A lot of lessons have been learned. And we really hope that these will then be implemented in a much larger scale to overcome the inevitable problems that we are going to face as the lockdown eases.
Okay, point well taken. In fact, because you've spoken about what we need to look forward to and what one should be watching out for in the future, I want to talk a little bit more about the future and the way forward from here now that these guidelines have been announced. So very quickly from Mr. Binoy Viswam and then from Dr. Nasir Hussain as well on the way forward and coordination with the government. Dr. Binoy Viswam, the states are expecting some amount of financial help from the center.
Naturally we expect it. We feel that we have a right to expect also. At such occasions of great crisis, the government of India has a moral duty, a political duty, and a constitutional duty to come to the help of the state governments. That is the real meaning of cooperative federalism. I repeat the word, cooperative federalism. The meaning of that political term, the Modi government should know what it is. And they should feel it is their obligation to implement that. We are waiting for that. It's a long wait that we are doing. Please, at least at this time, when the whole country is going through such a great crisis, instead of rushing to help the corporates and their cronies, please try to help the poor people. The poor people all over the country, including in Kerala, they need that help. The government should support the MSMEs. The government should support the migrant laborers. The government should support the women folk of the country. The government should see the plight of the Dalits in the country, the Adivasis of this country, those who are really underprivileged and unprivileged, and the distressed people. Their concerns have to be addressed. So the government should pump in money, and that money which will go to the poor people,
Right.
that will come to the market tomorrow. So for the economy itself, to make their markets activated, this money should reach the poor people. That's mere simple economics, not a left economics it is. It's a bourgeois economics. Let the people have money with them.
Okay.
And with that money,
Yes.
with that money, let them go to the market to buy the essentials. That will regulate the markets, activate the markets. Instead of the money that you give to the corporate, that will go to the share markets. That will go to the world of the plunderers. And that difference is there. At this occasion, please
Okay.
follow the Keynesian philosophy at least, the Keynesian economics at least, and do what they proposed years back. The Modi government, like the Trump government, they are still considering only about the rich and the corporates. And they're thinking of increasing the working hours from 8 hours to 12 hours a day. Today is May Day.
Well, actually,
April,
Mr.
April.
Binoy Viswam, I take your point. And you have an interesting insight there. I'm sorry, I'm a little short on time, so I will come in there. But, if you ask the rich and the corporates, they'll tell you that right now even they're not getting anything. And they're also awaiting some amount of help from the government. So, on the economic front, yes, states and center need to do a lot more. Dr. Nasir Hussain, do you want to weigh in on that? Because while restrictions have been relaxed for green zone, orange zone, and even red zones, almost everybody is saying that unless and until there is some amount of support for the industry and for the poor in terms of welfare, we will not see the movement on the economic front.
See, Tanvi, I'll put it like this. All this bifurcation into different zones, trying to have some containment areas, relaxation, it's all fine. I understand that we are going through difficult times. There is a spike in the number of cases, and they will again grow in next few days. It's fine. But what we have been telling from day one is, when we have lockdown, and unless the complete lockdown is lifted, that may take another 20 days, it may take 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, we don't know. Nobody knows that. A small relaxation will never activate the entire economy. And unless the entire economy is activated, there is no money with the state government or with the people down below. So the government at the state level can at best contain the areas. They can have some lockdown personnel working. They can activate the health workers. Local bodies can be activated. All these things can be done. But they really cannot help the poor people of the country because they don't have money, because there's no economic activity. And it will take certain amount of time for the entire economic activity to get activated. For that, the government of India has to step in. That is exactly why we have been from day one telling there should be separate packages for the labor class, for the daily wage laborers, for MSME sectors, for the service class, and so on and so forth. Now, the BJP spokesperson was saying that 1.7 lakh crores was announced. 50,000 crores of that was already due to the states. It was in effect only 1.17 crores or 1.20 crores which has been given to the states. That much for 130 crores of population of this country. I think that is not enough. That is one thing. What we are saying is the government should forego the self-aggrandizing projects like the Vista, the bullet train, and so on. They have already cut into the pensions. They have already cut into the DNS allowances of the central government employees. They have taken away the MP led funds. They have cut into the salaries of the MPs and other central government.
No, I get the point you're making, Dr. Hussain. I'm sorry I have to interrupt because I'm completely out of time. My apologies, but I take the point. And I promise you and Clyde and Syed Zafar Islam and Mr. Binoy Viswam that we will all get together and have one more conversation next week. I'm promising all of you gentlemen one more conversation when we will talk about the way forward for the economy. While we've had experts, top industry voices and economists on India Revival Mission, it's important to have the political representatives who will finally put it in place for us to revive the economy. But for now, thank you so much, gentlemen. So here is how things stand this Friday night, viewers. The central government has come out with a new set of guidelines as they categorize the entire country between green zone, orange zone and red zone. They have said that in each of these zones, the lockdown will continue in one way or the other for 2 more weeks after May 4th. But it's going to be a very different kind of a lockdown than what we've seen so far in the past 5 weeks. In fact, even for the red zones, a large amount of relaxation has been brought in place. What will still remain closed are your schools and colleges, your tutorials, clubs and gymnasiums, cinema halls, malls, restaurants, all of these are still closed. But there is a window now for economic activity, business activity to begin. There is a window now for some shops to open, for some amount of private offices and government offices to get back to work. How will this get implemented? Depends on the local administration and the state government. So stay tuned to Mera Now as we bring you all of those updates even through the weekend and all of next week. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.